Hello, Moon to Moon. Welcome back. I'm so excited to have an episode with a conversation. I have been doing only solo shows for a little bit here, which honestly, I love doing solo episodes very much. And yeah, I really love both forms of creation. They feel very different for me. And today I'm excited to be bringing you a conversation. And this conversation is with a dear colleague of mine who's been on Moon to Moon many times, and many Moon to Moon listeners know this human being, Mariola Rosario. So I'm going to speak a little bit about like an update from my world, and then I'm going to share more about Mariola and the purpose of this episode because it's very exciting and it involves a time sensitive date. So stay tuned. My update. My update is apparently I'm still launching for Emergence Astrology Year One. People are still coming in. Two people have come in this morning. This information is telling me that, like, it's Mercury retrograde, it's summer, the yeses are still arriving. Let's go. The wonderful thing about year one that you will find is that it's self-paced with there are checkpoints, but everything is evergreen. So it's not like if you get behind, it's like wasted. And it's also a situation where you could not be doing it, not be doing it, not be doing it, and then like gobble it up and like obsessively go through it. Like you can set your pace according to what's up in your life. So the first 9 months is a hermitage. And so you decide the pace that you want to do it at. I don't care about managing that. We have meetups to help you basically if you want accountability with like deadlines and if you want to ask questions or be witnessed in order to continue. So that's the purpose of the checkpoints. They're completely optional. So this really is something that you could enter into the entirety of July. Like I would say my final deadline would be the end of this month. But given the flow in the air, like given the vibe of the now, it seems true that the yeses are still dropping in. And so if you're one of those people that was like, well, I guess I can't sign up for that anymore because she's done launching. Surprise, I'm not. Um, if you were hoping that the doors would close so you wouldn't have to make the big decision about whether to give this to yourself, well, sorry, not sorry. You can still give this to yourself. You can still give this to yourself. It's enormous. It's enormous, massive, life-changing consequences in agreeing to this. I was just recording a video for year one yesterday, which I ended up turning into two videos. And one of the things that I came to is like, before we go any further, do you agree to emergence? Do you agree to this? Because just more and more, y'all, I feel so um, anchored into the importance of agreeing. One of the things I ask you to agree to is to be available. If you listen to any of my Scopes Unshamed for July, given some major shifts that are here for us in July with the astrology, a key question is, are you available for this? Are you available? Are you available to listen? Are you available to notice? Are you available to be with this? Are you available to be with yourself? Do you agree to be available? Because When you consciously agree to be available, you are in your agency. Like that's what agency is. In order to be a person of agency in your life, you have to agree to it. It's kind of wild that it's that simple, but like it's not. I know because I've lived in other ways, you know? And all the time I realize like, oh my God, I that hasn't been happening because I haven't been available to that happening. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with my process. I just actually wasn't available to it. I didn't actually agree. And oh, like when you realize that, you can just like stop tormenting yourself for what you haven't done yet or what, hasn't shown up in your life yet. It's just, you just actually weren't available and you weren't agreeing to it. It's like, okay, there it is. So the question is, do you agree? Do you agree to emergence? Are you available to emergence? You agree or you're agreeing or you're not agreeing, you know what I mean? And no shame on either one. But agency comes from like authority is inside the recognition of what you're agreeing to and what you're not agreeing to. Because we're actually always agreeing and not agreeing. We're just not always aware that we are. So when you bring awareness and like and consciousness to it, it's like, I see how this works. That is like so mad. That's magic. That's what magic is being very playful and aware of what you're agreeing to and not agreeing to. Seriously, that's like the basics of magic. So, are you available? Or if you're available to emergence, come join us cuz it's if you're available to it and you agree to it, it's going to take you places. It's going to take you places that are going to feel really empowering. They're going to feel really enchanting. It's going to feel way more compassionate and playful. It's going to feel really so much more alive. And one of the things that we are doing in year one is learning the fundamentals of intuition and psychic development through the containment of ritual practice in the ways that I've cultivated through a mix of the incredible teachers that I've invested in over the years to support me in this development, as well as my own funky things that I've developed over time. So I'm inviting you in to build a very magical ritual practice around your knowing so that you can fortify it and anchor it and live it. So, speaking of psychic awareness, speaking of ritual, let's move into the topic of today's episode. So, my guest today, as I said, is Mariola Rosario, who I've now known since the year that I met Hilma. I met Hilma af Klint at the Guggenheim, the famous show at the Guggenheim in 2019. And later that year, I did a Scorpio giveaway, and Mariola won. So Hilma af Klint is a Scorpio. Mariola is a Scorpio. And I did a little giveaway that was like, like tag 3 friends and follow me and like this post, and I'll enter you in the giveaway for a Scorpio workbook and a mini Scorpio. No, I didn't have my workbooks back then. I made the workbooks in 2020. By the way, most people think the Scorpio one is the big winner. But I think I gave a mini reading and I don't remember now. Anyway, I had my daughter Arden, who is now 17. She wrote down all the different names, put them in a hat, and she pulled the name. And that was such a lucky pick that I've had Arden pick all my giveaways since because I'm like, you're dialed in, Arden B, which she is. She is so psychic. So Mariola and I have been playing and learning together for many years now, 2019 to 2026. And we have a shared background in art history, and we are both astrologers and witches, and um, we are also really interested in critical thinking, critical awareness, critical theory, um, bringing a certain level of questioning and disruption to everything that we do. I just love talking to Mariola, and that's why I have her on here all the time. And I've had her now 3 years into my teaching program, Emergence Astrology. Mariola is now going to be in year 3 with me, so we've been building out this program, and I so value her wisdom. So when I was going to be headed to Europe this summer for Danica Boyce's pagan camp in Scotland, I had this idea to go through Paris and to do something with Mariola. And then we realized, like, oh my gosh, Leonora Carrington's show and the Hilma af Klint show are both happening in Paris. Like, this is so special. We should do something on channeled art and gnosis and give people an opportunity to see these shows if they're coming in from other places in Europe, or give people in Paris the opportunity to talk about it with us. So that's what we're doing. On July 19th, Sunday, July 19th at 10:30 a.m., we're going to be meeting in a park with the group who's gathered around this. To get that location and join us at 10:30, you sign up through the link in the show notes, and we'll let you know precisely where to meet us and what to bring. But it's 2 hours starting at 10:30. The first part will be more like a conversation, and the second part will be more structured as a ritual. And so we're going to be doing magical things together, and I can't wait to see who comes up to this event. I know a lot of people who may live in that area may already be traveling with summer travels. It's almost August, but would so love to see you. If you want to connect with me in Paris, me and Mariola, July 19th, 10:30 a.m., link in the show notes. We'll send you the location upon confirmation. All right. Let me read Mariola's Mariola's bio. Mariola Rosario, she, her, is an artist, astrologer, writer, teacher, and independent researcher from Puerto Rico, currently based in Paris, France. She explores visual and material culture in relation to terrestrial and celestial practices and mythologies, tracing how images, objects, and language shape cultural memory, origins, and political imaginaries. She is currently launching Studio Solar. I'm not sure if you maybe wanted Studio Solar, a creative research studio dedicated to seasonal astrological inquiry through art, symbols, and visual culture. Its first offering, Inventing the Self, Self-Portraiture, and Solar Mythic Imagination with Leonore Feeney and Leonora Carrington, begins on July 22 as a 3-part course held during Leo season that draws on the work of Feeney and Carrington as a starting point for conversations on the solar, self-portraiture, personal mythology, artistic practice, art making, and the creative imagination. Mariola writes on Substack at Las Flores del Mar, where she shares reflections on myth, art, monstrosity, astrology, politics, and the magic of language. Paid subscribers are also invited to join the Radical Book Club for Underworld Readers, a lively and generative collective devoted to reading critical texts together. On most days, she can be found wandering the streets of Paris, following images and stories wherever they lead, convinced that walking is one of the oldest forms of research. Yes. And all of the important links to connect with Mariola are in the show notes. So, truly, her Substack is one of the top Substacks, one of the few that actually read, and very worth it supporting her. I think we're good now. I hope to see you at the workshop in Paris, and I will meet you on the other side of this conversation. Cheers. Welcome back to Moon, Mariola Rosario.
Thank you. Hi.
I don't even know how many times you've been on now. It's many. It's many. Welcome.
I don't know. I think at least four or five.
At
Maybe this is the fifth.
least, at
Mhm.
least. Yep.
Yeah.
So we are coming on today because we are going to be leading a workshop in person in Paris on channeled artists, in honor of the fact that in Paris this summer there's two exhibitions, one from the artist Leonora Carrington and one from Hilma af Klint. So I was hoping to see you anyway. There you have it. Yeah, the exhibition catalogs. I've
Yes.
got my Hilma catalog from
Oh,
New York, the Guggenheim.
yeah, this is something we have to talk about. 2018, I think it's a key moment for the Hilma lore.
It really is.
Hmm.
Um, all right, so before we get there, though, or on our way there, I would love for us each to share some about like the meandering, the meandering road to this point, whereby both of us have this background in art and art history, and then had like some life shifts, at least for me, that led into an esoteric spiritual pathway, mystical pathway, the pathway of the channeler. And the discovery of these artists and being in a moment where we're not the only ones discovering these artists. And it's like the merging of all of these passions in one place. So exciting. So would you want to go first? Share some about your background? I think there's going to be things you say that I don't even know.
My background with the arts, let's see. Well, I've always been interested in art as even as a young person, taking art lessons and also just like really fascinated by the figure of the artist, you know? Maybe you also like there was already something very attractive about that, like a person that has openings or something, like many possibilities, a person that can conjure things up, that can create new realities and also kind of like do whatever the fuck they want. I think very attractive to me earlier on. And then yeah, I was thinking about this question of like what led me to these more like occult or esoteric practitioners of art. And I had this memory of growing up with magical realism, you know, the literary current. I think I first came into this magical world through that, through these stories, through literature, because this is huge in Puerto Rico and in Latin America. Like we grow up reading Gabriel Garcia Marquez and Julio Cortázar and Borges and like so many others. And I think like there's something about living in the Caribbean. So I grew up in Puerto Rico, I grew up in the Caribbean. This is my context. And like magical realism is like a real thing that exists in these places, you know, like the reality, the brutal reality, the political reality is like mixed in with the marvelous constantly, you know, the brutal and the beautiful, the brutal and the magical always intertwining. And I think at some point, whenever I first encountered Leonora Carrington and the surrealists in general, I felt like um, I was very familiar with this territory. I was already like very familiar with um, this way of seeing this perspective. So, and then, more formally, I did study art history and I became obsessed with especially contemporary art. I remember in college, like all I wanted to do was go to the Pompidou, the modern art museum in Paris, which of course now I live here and I've been to many times. It's actually the place where I first saw that's where I first saw Hilma Klint's work in person, was in the Women in Surrealism exhibition that took place in 2021. And it was Hilma that opened that show. Like you would walk into the room and the first thing that you would see was a Hilma Klint painting. Like, welcome to the show of the women in surrealism. In abstraction, not surrealism. It was women in abstraction. And it's not where I learned about her, but it was an incredible experience to see that work in person. It is, well, as you know, and we can continue to talk about this, like some next level opening that happens when you encounter it in person. Yeah, I don't know. How's that meander for you?
It's great. Yeah, there's a lot you said there that really resonated for me in my own pathway. I fell into art history first the summer after my dad died. I took it at my school as a summer school class. And I remember just feeling like the only relief I felt from my grief was in the slides, which is so fascinating because it's like I think I was like astral projecting into the like slides are such a fascinating thing. Like now we don't have them anymore, but like the light projector moving through that little slide onto the screen. And then later, when I lived in Paris, my junior year of college, I had a pass to all the museums for I get in anytime I wanted for free. It was a very lonely and melancholic time human wise, but I like fell in love with Paris was my best friend and the art was my best friend. Um, and my favorite figure at the time, like character in art history at the time was Pierrot Le Fou from one of the Commedia dell'arte characters that artists have been depicting for years and years as like this kind of outsider figure holding like the weight of melancholy, of like feeling everything that there is to feel and being so like beautiful and sad at the same time and an outsider, but like you just like I just get Pierrot. And I felt like Pierrot was like my best friend through the centuries, like from Watteau through Picasso. Anyway, so you mentioning the figure of the artist like really resonated with me, especially for me seeing it as like a a figure who is among the world but separate from it at the same time. Which is a very fascinating thing because later, now with Hilma here, for example, there is also this between worlds quality. It's just like, which worlds are we talking about, right? But it's so funny that you were just talking about the Caribbean because I had lived a little bit in the Caribbean and I was sharing with someone that my favorite thing about the Caribbean is what a weird liminal place it is. It's so liminal between worlds. Um, Yeah, so I ended up getting my master's in art history, and I had two main fields. One of them was symbolist art of the late uh, 19th century, these artists who were completely overlapping with like creators of tarot decks, like Golden
Yes.
Dawn, Madame Blavatsky, spiritualist circles, that Hilma was completely in.
Hmm.
And so I was like dancing at the edges of these names, and I was like reading source material that was their source material, but I wasn't fully aware of all of it. Because in 2004, 5, 6, when I was in grad school, nobody was saying anything with the word tarot in it.
No.
Like that wasn't, it was like, let's not discuss these things. Let's just omit this from the history, which when I was an art historian, my favorite thing to do was to put light on what had been omitted. It's just like I almost got there. But um yeah, the light was not available yet, right? Like
Yeah.
we weren't
Yeah.
able to fully articulate this like deeper level that Helma, I think, kind of brought it all into like an integrated moment of like we can all look at this at the same time. Um, but yeah, studying symbolist art, which is like it's a vast space there, but a lot of it has to do with how to make visible the invisible, how to like articulate the unlanguageable, like what is between that we can't fully see, but we feel it and we know it's there, what's under, behind, above. Love that world. Um,
Same. Love those guys.
love it,
Fan.
love it. And then in my PhD program, I was studying um, the visualization of atomic science in popular culture, which brought me into this whole world of cameras and microscopes and lenses for seeing what the naked eye can't see, and getting artists being brought in to help make visible what the populace is trying to understand, which is like how to split an atom. How did we get nuclear warfare? Why do we need nuclear warfare? Why is it really great to escalate defense spending right now? And same scientists who are also studying genetics and DNA and what is the unseen thing that will help us understand our being here? It's just so fascinating. And I feel like maybe one of the things that, all these surrealists, the modern artists, the abstract artists of early abstraction are all very fascinated with this. But what I feel like is very fascinating about Hilma af Klint, and I may be jumping a little ahead here, is perhaps the balance that she brought in by bringing in the planets and the cosmos as a balance to the molecular and the cellular and the elemental, um, in our search to understand what we can't see, and what is beyond the visible realm and beyond the material realm. It's a fascinating world. Yeah. So by the time I saw the show at the Guggenheim, I went April 2019. I had abandoned my PhD pursuit in order to become a full-time astrologer. And I wasn't full-time yet, though. I was still doing a teaching load full-time.
Wow.
Um, but I was building my career at the same time. It was such a wild experience to have just left art history, the institutions, or like my pursuits within it, and then here she is. I don't want to forget to include this in the podcast, but I went to sleep that night after the
Yes.
show and I asked Hilma to give me her birth time in my sleep. And I woke up and wrote it down 7:22 a.m. I just went and I found my journal and I
Oh my
went
God.
and I looked and it puts her AC at 4 Scorpio. Her sun is at 2 Scorpio and her Mercury retrograde is at 5 Scorpio. So sun, Mercury, ascendant is Scorpio, like
Like
you.
me. I love that. That is, yeah, that's one of the great questions. It's like, when was she? Well, we have her date, but we don't have the birth time because she was born in the 1800s. So it's a big question, for the astro internet girlies out there, like that are fascinated by Hilma like us. Like, what is the rising sign? So thank you.
It does bring up the question. Well, that you just dreamed that. Should we take it seriously?
I think
And
Hilma would say yes.
exactly.
And Lenora.
I didn't look up Leonore's birthday. Did you? Do you know what?
She's an Aries. Don't We don't have again the birth time. Maybe you can have a dream tonight and let us know tomorrow.
Oh yeah, after I
She's
see the
from
show, I need to get I need to get real close to her.
You need to get tapped in. She's from April 6th. Yeah, April 6th, 1917.
1917.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
Hilma is October 26th, I think.
October 26th, like 60,
1862.
62.
1862. Yeah.
And Moon and Sag, um, with South Node, I think. I just looked at it. No, with North Node. Um, okay. Oh, and if she really is a Scorpio rising, that puts her Saturn, Jupiter, and Venus in Libra in the 12th.
That's
Feels pretty
that sounds about right.
correct.
That sounds correct. I think we just had a breakthrough, and yeah, it makes a lot of sense that she's a Scorpio, but also a Scorpio rising. Scorpio Mercury, like all of it. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. I think first, one of the things that I wanted to hear you talk about is in one of your voice messages, you use the word the aperture,
Yes,
which
this
got
is
me
my word.
so excited because that is a word that I have been invoking for the like openings in our psychic system to let
Mm,
in information.
yes,
It's
I
also a
think
camera word.
yeah, exactly. It's an art art history word, camera word. It's a perspective word. It's like about looking. It's about eyesight. It's about gaze, and yeah, I think I've been calling it like the aperture, and I keep saying this word every day to myself because I truly believe that we are in a moment of aperture, that is allowing us to receive and like have more contact with these artists that have been around for a really long time, and now there seems to be some kind of opening, some kind of like new sight line that has opened up that can allow us to see this work in its fullness. And I think that show in 2018 was one of the moments, one of the key moments. Is like this huge retrospective of Hilma Klint in the Guggenheim in 2018, 2019. Like, this is the first time that a lot of people saw her work for the first time. It was the first time that it was being shown like for real, like in a retrospective manner with like respect. Like this is a pioneer of abstraction. So one of the things about Hilma is that her work precedes what we have been told are the pioneers of
Pioneering
abstraction,
men.
pioneering men. So we're talking about Kandinsky,
Mondrian.
Malevich, Mondrian. Um, and so when we put Hilma on the timeline, she came before all of these dudes. So essentially, like all the art history books, all the modern art history books need to be revisited and rewritten to include Hilma F. Klint. So like that's already a huge thing. But yeah, going back to this like aperture thing, something has happened. Like some, I don't know if it's like a severing or simply like, because severing sounds severe, and I think, I mean, I'm not afraid of severity, and like I think Hilma was a Scorpio, so like there is like this almost like a crack that has
Yes.
happened, and a thirst, like a real hunger to get to know these women and their work that we have been denied by institutional misogyny and other things, right? So I'm just really fascinated right now in 2026 to see that both Hilma and Leonora Carrington have retrospective shows going on in Paris right now, right? Like in one of the big art cities, like they're being legitimized by the big institutions. And then at the same time, we have a show at the Tate. There's a big Frida Kahlo one. There's also an Ana Mendieta one.
Frida
These are
Kahlo at the
all,
Tate right now.
yeah, and Ana Mendieta.
Oh my God. You may be changing my, whoa, changing my
Like both of
itinerary in
them.
Europe.
Yes,
What?
and last fall I went to the first retrospective of Ethel Calhoun, who's one of my favorite artists of all time. I have dreams about her. This is exactly what happened to me as I went to her show at the Tate. I think it was in October, and I immediately started to have dreams where she was coming and telling me things, you know? Telling me
Yeah.
important information that I then incorporated into my own work and my own teachings, of course, because, I'm a witch that listens.
Yes. A witch that listens. Oh my gosh. Writing that down.
Yeah, so that's where this aperture word is coming from, and I'm very curious if that resonates with people. I mean, it resonates with the people that I have been talking with. And I think we can look at this aperture in terms of astrology, right? Like we can look at what's going on astrologically, like the configurations that can be like kind of show us the pattern of this aperture, but we can also look at this through just regular history. We can also look at it like through our intuitive lenses. And it seems to be like really resonating with everyone that I've been talking to. And just seeing in Paris, like I've been talking a lot with people that have gone to see the show, the Hilma af Klint show. In general, people don't know Hilma in Paris. It's not like a well recognized name. So it's been fascinating to see people's reactions. Like there is an aperture that also happens when you encounter this work,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, like what I remember so much about that show is Britten LaRue, felt like I was having an extraordinary personal experience, and so was everyone else, like,
Everyone. Yeah.
I mean, everyone who came into contact with that show was blown away at a deep level. And there's like the glyphs of the zodiac, it's like she's bringing it all in this way that it's like it felt like it was an invitation to invite so many more people into the possibilities of esoteric consciousness
Mhm.
at the same time as her abstraction. The word
Yes.
aperture is to open and to uncover etymologically.
Mhm. Yeah,
And when
that
you were
feels correct.
speaking, I was thinking about the slitting of the eye in the Chien
Yes.
Andalou,
Mhm.
the surrealist film by um,
Buñuel.
Buñuel with Dali. And
Yes.
I've always connected that slicing of the eye with eclipses because there's an overlay
Yes.
with
Yes.
the sun um, as like new sight. In fact, years ago, I did an eclipse workshop with Jonathan Coe
I
called
remember.
A New Sight
Yes.
because I wanted to play with new eyes. That was what the surrealists were inviting us into. And surrealism is like later-ish than
Yes.
Clint. But one of my favorite terms from the surrealism is the term to make strange.
Mm.
And this idea of making everyday things strange so that we can see them with new eyes
Yes.
and not presume that we get them, but that bring in this intimacy of newness. Um, that I think there's something in our times that makes us available in ways that we weren't available before, but also Helma uh, willingly had the paintings stored away for the
She
future
knew
audience.
this. Yeah, she was clued into this. She so one of the more like interesting things I think in her story as a creative is that she decided that her work was not to be seen by the public until 20 years after her death. And this was her decision. She left it in writing. And so, let's see, she died, I think, in 44. So that means that her work was like, there's again this word aperture, like it was in some kind of enclosure, right? In some kind of
Yes.
like vault. And then it was open and revealed in the 60s. Well, we all know what's happening in the 60s, right? Imagine like the difference of consciousness between like the 40s and the 60s. So this is
Hmm.
when people first see her work. Not, I mean, not her work, like she was part of like an artistic community. I think like it's important to say that she had collaborators and she wasn't like
She
a
wasn't like an
lone
outsider
wolf.
artist. Yeah.
No, not at all. She had a group of women that she worked with called the Five, that, you know, this that were incredible, and they would do seances and they would make like automatic writing, automatic painting together, and they would do literal seances. So, you know, she was surrounded by artists and spiritual and mystics, but it is in the 60s where then this work is revealed and received for the first time in 20 years. And then I was reading that it was not until the 80s that she had her first like big show. 86,
Okay.
I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the next one is the one in the Guggenheim.
Yeah. I mean, if I had encountered her, it was like I just saw one little thing and I didn't have any context for it. I didn't know her name. It wasn't in my consciousness until the show at the Guggenheim.
Yeah, I think it was in the air, but as always, and with this is true for Lenora and with like so many of the other women surrealists, where they're kind of like footnotes. They're like, and also like there was this woman over here that also did abstract paintings, and here's one painting. But here's all these other Kandinskis, because of course Kandinsky like had a manifesto, like she, these men did men in abstraction, like they had like color theory manifestos. There is like a gossip that, uncorroborated, but possibly that Kandinsky saw Hilma's paintings because she had given a series of paintings to oh, what's his name? The theosophist,
Steiner,
Steiner. She had,
Rudolph.
I mean, yeah, they were in communication for throughout her life, and she had given him some paintings. And there's a rumor that a Kandinsky, who was also in communication with Steiner, saw her paintings there and like saw like the whole, because this is before Kandinsky got into the whole spiritual world that he
Okay.
eventually got known for. Anyway, that's some like art history gossip.
Gossip.
Hot goss.
Yeah.
uh, yeah.
And she, like, one of the things that struck me, because I was, within a couple years of my Neptune to Sun midlife change, um, was just like the extreme commitment that she made to this project. Just like she would just work, she was just a steward, like
Yes.
constantly. And then she would like sleep for 3 weeks and then get back and just like complete commitment. This
Yeah.
is my
Complete
life.
dedication. Complete
I take
dedication.
instructions.
Yeah, and she was not getting paid for this work. I think this is something interesting about her, is that she did double herself, as many of us artists and mystics do, where we like double ourselves between like our real, quote, real work that makes money and sustains ourselves, and our spiritual work, or like our more experimental practices. And she was like successful. She was a successful artist. Like she was making botanical paintings and landscapes, and sort of like making money that way, like it's kind of like more realist work. And then she had this like secret work that she was doing, and like a couple of people were in on it, like her girlfriends and the people that she was with, but it was largely like secret, and private. And she would just like work on this. And it was almost like she was being commissioned by a higher energy. I mean, this is exactly what she said in her
Yes.
works. Like the work that she created and that we see now in the show is co-authored with Spirit. And actually, like she would even say, like, I didn't even make this work. This is not
Yeah.
my work. Like this is Spirit moving through me, and I'm just a vessel. Right. So here we enter like the world of channeling. So it's like she was given an assignment, and she worked and she worked and she worked. And then one day this assignment was over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she even describes like the names of these different guides. Like,
Yes.
I can't remember their names. Like, eh, Muriel, not a name, but kind of like one. Muriel said to do da da da. Da.
Yes. Yeah,
Like
and they're like
differentiating
moving.
between guides just shows like the high level of subtlety she was at with her channeling.
Yes. And going back to the aperture thing, like imagine going to uh the Grand Palais, which is where the exhibition is right now, and you're going to it soon. This is like a very well regarded French institution, like, very serious. And in the descriptions, they're talking about like Hilma and her spirit guides. Like, I've
Yeah,
never been to a show like this. in France, where people, I mean, there's a lot of aperture for this kind of work, but people like do identify themselves a lot here with being like quote realist, like we don't like dabble in these types of things, and especially in the art world. And it's fascinating to see this like in the catalog, like her spirit guides being named
Yeah.
with such respect. This is something that I had not seen before in this context, and I'm so here for it.
Mm, yeah. It's not like you leave and you're like, wait, they didn't say anything about that. Like I'm just thinking about when I went to this um witchcraft exhibition in Salem, and you realize like, wait a minute, they never mention anything. Like you when you leave shows, I think one of the things I'm grateful at the Academy, taught me is to wonder about what wasn't shared, like what wonder
Yeah.
about what wasn't mentioned. So
Oh,
it's like that was a conscious choice to not omit that.
exactly. A brave and delightful one, I think. And I think it's one of the things that makes the show a success, in my opinion. Because I also have been to shows where I leave kind of confused and a bit
Hmm.
bothered. Like, why didn't they just say it? Why did they say she was a witch? Like, or practicing
Hmm.
these things. It's okay. So again, the aperture.
The aperture. Seeking, I did find this one quote from Leonora I wanted to share that feels related to apertures. Let's just see
Mhm.
what we come up with here. But Leonora Carrington wrote, "The task of the right eye is to peer into the telescope, while the left eye peers into the microscope."
Love her so much. This actually makes me think about Hilma, which, by the way, like these two, they never met. I'm not sure that like Leonora was aware even of Hilma's work. I don't think so. But the microscope thing makes me think of Hilma's work as a artist of botanicals, because she was
Yeah.
working like with like all these like new scientific tools to see deeper, to help us see further than we have seen before, and to um what you said before, like make visible the invisible, or that which we don't have access to. And I think that a lot of her abstract work comes from that like natural botanical world, like this,
Yeah.
when we look at something deep enough for long enough, anything like, let's say, a flower, it will become abstracted. We will begin to see its internal structures. And I think like a lot of the work of Hilma reminds me of this, like really like looking at something until you like pulverize it, basically. And
Mm.
it becomes abstraction.
I feel like it reminds me of the polarity of Virgo Pisces. Um, like close study, like deep enough, and you enter like the vastness of some other realm.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm also thinking about the phrase "beyond the visible" is a exhibition name from that I have a catalog for of the work of Odilon Redon, who you love
What
too,
one
one of
of
my
my favorites.
favorites.
I cry. Every time I
And
see a
he's
painting, I cry.
and he like studied botany and
Yes.
the natural world so closely. And there's some quote of his from that catalog that I would share in my like survey class on how like if you want to paint what's beyond the visible, like study the visible.
Oh, yes, that's so beautiful. Mm,
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think that this what I don't remember seeing at speaking of omissions, maybe it was there, but I would have been looking for it. I didn't see a deep exploration of her interest in astrology. It sort of
mm.
felt like those symbols are, the symbols of the zodiac are just there. And it's just like, and there they are. Like it wasn't really
Yeah,
fully explained, like how to bring that into the whole of her fascinations. I don't know if that
yeah.
they bring that in at the Grand Palais because I haven't been yet.
They don't, and I also was wondering about this, but I think this is all part of the Hilma of Klint lore. Like she left so many things unsaid. Like she wasn't explicit about so many things. Like we know her areas of study, we know the company that she kept, we know that she belonged to these like different societies. We know that the different things like disciplines that she was dabbling in, including astrology, clearly, because we can see this in the paintings. But I don't think, at least not that I know of, that there are like texts or like explicit content that tells us like what she was thinking exactly. But
Yeah.
I think this is part of the work that is being done now. It's part of the aperture where we have historians, we have investigators and researchers like us, I think, that are digging into these things. And so possibly in like the future, not so distant future, we may learn more about those astrological paintings.
Yeah, I had a moment like a tremor back in 2019 when I went just like, oh, should I go back to art history now? Because there's going to be all these people doing such cool things. Um,
Yes,
and yeah, I would want to know like what astrology texts did she have, you know?
yes,
Had she had readings or
definitely.
who
I
did she
mean,
know that
we
was an
can imagine.
astrologer? Like all that research, hope that is getting done. Um, did she have a tarot deck? Which one was it? I want to know these things.
I know, I want to know everything, but I do think some of this will have to come in channeled form. Like
Totally.
some of these things we're
Like her
never
birth
gonna
time.
know, and it's delicious to speculate and imagine these things, that we just don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the points that I want to make sure we touch on that you brought into our voice chat is how these artists help us see how not alone we are when, especially when we're in our creative channels.
Yeah, I mentioned the five, the
Hmm.
group of women that she was a part of. And she, by the way, she never married. This is also something interesting. She never married, she never had children. We know that she only lived with women, we don't have like any information about that's another. I mean, she was a Scorpio. Like, what are we doing? Like, we don't know a ton of shit. We're never gonna know. But
De femme, I think, is the name in Swedish of the five.
yeah,
Uh,
something like that. Yes.
femme, because femme
Was
is
the
Fyra femme is five femme, which is like femme. But yeah, she had her group and then she had her voices on the other side.
Yes, which I
Um
think are like two. Yeah, I guess this is what I was kind of getting at in the voice note, where yeah, I guess we're not alone. As
Yeah.
someone that me suffers from these thoughts all the time of like I'm alone. Hilma was in creative partnership with these invisible forces, and she was also in creative partnership with very
Humans.
real
Yeah.
humans that were her friends, and that, a lot of the temple paintings were made in collaboration with humans. I don't think like she painted all of those by herself. This is one of the things. So she she was in these communities, right? Both the visible and the tangible and the non-tangible as well, which are, I
Yeah.
think, equally important to this work that we're all interested in. Hmm.
Yeah, I remember hearing about how disappointed she was that Rudolf Steiner, the Theosophist, didn't was like ambivalent about her work when she showed it to him and didn't
Yeah.
validate it and didn't get it. Um,
Yes.
and I've often thought about that and just like staying with it anyway, like she didn't give
Yeah.
up on it. Um,
She gave up for a little bit. She
mhm.
stopped painting. Yeah, I read about this, and she did like that did something to her. It did crack something in
um,
her. She really wanted and searched for his approval and validation on a number of occasions. And he liked some of it, but he never sort of validated her the way that she needed. And she stopped painting for a while, and then she
oh,
and then she kept going. So I've
hmm
also wondered also like if this story about the 20 years after her death, because that's essentially what he told her, was that this work is not meant for the audience of today. Like people are not going to get this work. That was his critique. Can you imagine,
yeah,
And I think she did want to show her work, and she tried to show her work, and it didn't work out. And then we have this other story where she decides that she's not going to show her work until 20 years after her death. So I wonder, if these things are related. We can again speculate. We don't really know. But in any case, I think this choice to create work for a future audience, like for a future set of eyes, that will have a different aperture and a different way of looking, is so powerful. And I think in many ways, like we are this audience, right? So I'm always so moved by this because I see it. I see how people are reacting to this work. I see how it's moving something inside of people. And so she was, I think, quite prophetic in that way as well.
yeah. Big legacy.
Yes.
Well, pretty excited to get there and see these shows and see you first time in person.
I can't wait. Yeah. One last thing, one other like little gossip about Hilma Klint is that when she died, like after the 20 years had passed, I think it was her nephew that was left with her work, and he tried to donate it to the Modern Museum of Stockholm, and they said no.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Silly, silly, silly.
Silly goons. Yeah, they're
Wasn't
probably
for
like
that time yet
dying.
either. Now they're dying. The money they've lost.
Yes.
Oh, whoa.
Mm.
Anything else you'd want to name or add?
See, let me look at my notes here. I think we're good with Hilma. I would just say like, um, if you're in Paris, come see the Hilma of Klint show. It's literally one of the best shows I've seen in my life.
Wow.
It's so well done, and the place that they've chosen to do it is the Grand Palais. So these temple paintings are huge. That's another thing that we didn't touch on, but a lot of her work is enormous. So you need a big place to display it to kind of get the full the temple vibes that she was creating, and they've done a really good place. It's really good, yeah,
Oh,
job at this.
I can't wait. I can't remember where the Leonora show is.
So Leonora is in a way smaller place. It's the Musée de Luxembourg. It's
Oh
by
yeah.
the garden. It's in the garden of Luxembourg, and it's a small museum. It's a way smaller show.
Okay.
Also, like her work is smaller in scale. You know, like Hilma really does have like these super large scale paintings. Um, and yeah, the Lenora Carrington is like smaller and darker also. The
Okay.
space is quite dark. Um, and the work is so different too. Yeah.
Mm.
You want to talk about Lenora Carrington?
Sure. Yes.
So yeah, this is the other one, right? So in our gathering in Paris, we're sort of taking advantage of the fact that these two shows are going on at the same time. We're marveled by it and tickled by it and excited that this is something that's been chosen for the big summer shows. Like the summer shows are a big deal because this is when most tourists are going to come into the city. So I think that also says something about like what people are wanting, you know?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, Leonora Carrington, different times. So Leonora Carrington is was one of the many women that were part of the surrealist group. And she was originally from England, but she moved around quite a bit. Like her story is a story of moving around a lot. In a way, it's like a story of the 20th century, I think, because she escaped the family home, like this like rigid upper class family home to be an artist in Paris. She falls in love with none other than Max Ernst, one of the most well-known surrealist artists. So it's like immediately like she's sort of part of this whole crew. And then a couple of years later, the Second World War breaks out. Max Ernst is taken into a concentration camp. She's left alone. She's forced to flee. She goes to Spain, and then eventually she has to flee to Mexico. So this is we can see this also in the work where there's so much real tragedy happening in her life, so much like real trauma, and then the work is so interior. The work is like really about like traveling to the depths of the self, I think, um, to find refuge in these interior spaces. I really think of her work as like 12th house landscapes. Does
Mm.
that does that resonate?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, there's so much going on externally, but clearly there's so much going on internally as well. And I think like she's one of the most brilliant artists to depict like the the psychic world, no, the unseen realms, the oniric world, dreams, all of that.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't know her work as well, so I'm excited to have an excuse to get intimate.
Yeah, it's I mean, in some ways, she's like a very classical, like surrealist. It's funny to say that because surrealism is not classical in any way, but like just very interested in the unconscious, subconscious, like all of these worlds. And yeah, she was no one's muse, basically. Like one of her most famous quotes is something around like, I had no time to be anyone's muse. I was too busy like escaping my home and trying to become an artist, something like that. So that's she's also an Aries. Like you can hear this immediately, like very Aries, very driven, very brave, I think, in many ways, uh, pioneering in many ways. And yeah, we with the surrealists, the figure of the woman, the femme, this is a hot topic, right? So there were quite a lot of women, though, that were part of this group. We have Dora Maar, we have Leonor Fini, there's so many. And again, we're in this moment of aperture where, like, finally, these women are coming out of this just like one wall that is dedicated to them in the big surrealist exhibitions. I remember, like, in the Pompidou, maybe like 2 years ago, there was a huge surrealism exhibition. This was like in 2024, maybe. And there was a room. There was at least there was a room and not a wall, but it was like, there were like 4 rooms of Dali, 5 rooms of Dali, something like that. And then you have like this one room for the ladies, that were around, but at least there's a room. So something is happening. And, we also have Eiffel Cahoon, who's the other surrealist that I'm obsessed with. And something interesting about Lenore is that she did not consider herself a surrealist. She did not
Okay.
consider herself as part of the group. There's quotes where she says, like, I was considered a surrealist because I was with Max Ernst, and that's how they accepted me into the group.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Same with Frida Kahlo, right?
Frida, yes, there
Sometimes
was,
she's lumped in with surrealism, but she didn't identify that way.
yeah, yeah, and she sort of brushed shoulders with them a lot. I think Andre Breton was really obsessed with Frida Kahlo. Um, but yeah, she was doing something else. And so was Leonora Carrington and Lenore Finney, who, I am also really interested in. All of it sounds like all the women are like, no, like we were there, but we were kind of doing something else. Eiffel Colquhoun is another one. She was one of the British surrealists, and she got kicked out of the group because of her spiritual practices. Because these surrealists, for all their devotion and interest into the unconscious, they were really um, they were really rigid when it came to spirituality and mysticism. They did not want to fuck with this, and they did not like it when people went down that road, especially women. Right? So they're doing like
Hmm.
all this like techniques. It's very technical, like automatic writing, automatic painting, but no channeling.
No channeling.
And Eiffel Cahoon was channeling. Like we know this. So they
Whoa.
kicked her out. Yeah.
These lines for control. Um, tell tell us about your project you've got coming up.
Yeah, so I am really, as you could probably hear, like really invested and sort of like submerged and swimming with all these characters because I'm teaching a class over the summer for Leo season. So it starts July 22nd, which is first day of Leo. And it's a class on self-portraiture, on the the action of putting the self onto the page, onto the stage, onto the song, like what drives the self to do that, right? To accept this solar invitation. And I'm working with both Leonora Carrington and Leonore Finney, who we've mentioned briefly, but was also one of the surrealists. They were both friends, Leonora Carrington and Leonore Finney. They were collaborators. They were hanging out in Paris. And they both, I think, can teach us quite a few things about like alternative techniques of putting the self into the canvas, right? And playing with the self, not just like, this is what I look like and this is what I'm going to show you, but these are my symbols. I think this is what's interesting to me about self portraiture is like what the artists decide to bring, not just the body, but these objects, these things that they carry with them, this vase or whatever. Like, Frida Kahlo was very good at this. You look at her self portraits, and there's always like lots of little things that are around her, like the monkey or and so yeah, this is kind of a solar invitation in my view. And I wanted to do it in Leo season because, well, of course, the sun is going to come into Leo. And in 2026, we also are now experiencing Jupiter moving into
Hmm.
Leo. This just happened. So, Leo is an area of the sky that is being extra lit up this this year. It's always lit up, right? Especially when the
Mm.
sun goes there. But I think the Leo invitations are quite abundant in 2026 and moving into 2027. We will also have the nodes of the moon moving into Leo and Aquarius very soon at the end of July. Yes. And
Hmm.
so we will begin to experience eclipses in Leo and Aquarius. We already started, but the nodes are officially moving very soon. So, on the one hand, we're going to have Jupiter in Leo, this sort of like expansive energy. And then we're also going to have the South Node in Leo, um, which I see more as a sort of ecstatic releasing of material. So it makes for an interesting combination, and it's something that we're going to bring into the class, sort of like both the self aggrandizing energy that can be there with Leo, but also like the self effacing energy that can be in this area. I myself, like I'm a Scorpio rising. I have Leo in the 10th house. I have my MC in Leo. The people that have been in astrology classes with me will know that I always talk about this cosmic joke that I think it is.
It really is. Of all the first house, 10th house jokes.
It's like, oh my God, like what do we do with this 10th house when we have like all the Scorpio stuff, like the sun, and in my case, I also have the sun in Scorpio and the AC, and I just have so much in Scorpio, and then I have this Leo 10th house invitation. So in a way, this class is my love letter to that part of my chart. And yeah, I'm excited. It is a course that has 3 different meetups, and then we'll have some like online stuff in between. And it's also a studio space, so the idea is to create as well. It is not a painting class. It's not like officially, like I'm not going to teach you how to make portraits, but we're gonna borrow some of the techniques of Lenora and Lenore to create inquiry around these topics of like authorship and the self and play with it. Some of these techniques, for example, in the case of Leonora Carrington, include working with tarot.
Totally.
Yeah,
Oh, so cool. I love to watch you in your creative process.
thank you.
And that, so it will start just a few days after I see you. Because I think our
Yeah,
workshop's on like the 19th.
yes, so
Um,
19th, which is also a Sunday. We have Hilma and Leonora Carrington, and then, yeah, and then my thing will last the whole season of
okay.
Leo. So I invite anyone that resonates with any of this, like, come on, check it out. Let's have fun. We're in the aperture.
We're in the aperture. Mm. Thank you so much for coming on to Moon again.
My pleasure. This is
And
so delicious to talk about these things with you.
always, and really looking forward to see who it comes in for the workshop, who happens to be in the area. We're excited to connect with you and link in show notes to join.
You.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, Moon to Moon. How was that? So fun. Hope to see some of you July 19th, Sunday, 10:30 a.m. We're meeting. We're meeting. We're gathering. We're gathering with these women. And I'm looking forward to seeing what emerges. What emerges? So, yeah, I just asked Mariola a question. I wanted to check on her response for it. Um, yeah, we're thinking about calling it moment of aperture. Now you know why, because you've listened to the conversation. Moment of aperture. And that's what we're dialing into. Like the aperture being this opening, this uncovering, this revealing in this moment. And then we're creating a moment together. So what happens when we get together? That's really the nature of it, is creating the space for something to emerge that feels beyond us, or and it feels bigger than us, but it happens because we together, because an us was created for a moment. So we're calling that in for our experience. We're very much looking forward to seeing you if you're able to make it. If you're not able to make it, I hope that you will um, connect with Mariola for her upcoming project. The link for that is in the show notes as well, her Leo season project. And I hope you will explore the art of the women that we've discussed here today. I'll put a bunch of links in the show notes so that you can go explore more. And finally, if you're called into Emergence Astrology Year One, I'm inviting you to come in before the doors really do close here before the end of the month. I would love to have you be part of my student community. This is where you're really working with me and my frameworks in a long-term way, playing with all of my different gifts. I have a lot of different tricks and just ways that I help people, and I'm bringing them all in here. Um, and because of the Saturnian nature of it being a long-term commitment, it allows the kind of magic that unfolds with legacy, with like a longer term to happen in the containment of a contract space where I'm creating just for you. So if you agree to give that to yourself, if you're available and you agree to it, I hope that you'll come in and say yes before the month is through. I would love to have you be part of the group here. We've got like 43 now. It's such a great size, and I would love to have more. So there's room for you. There is room for you here. There is a place for you here. There is belonging here, belonging in more ways than you can possibly imagine. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you at the next one.